Hey everyone, back with another tutorial. So did one recently, I don't know when you'll watch this or when I'll release it, but did one yesterday, which will be the last video that was uploaded, so check that out, around how to really get some thickness in your mid bass and process it properly. But in that I realized there was actually this low mid layer, and I wanted to talk about that. In terms of just adding continued thickness into your bass lines. So what we often see is with the bass lines, there is almost a battle going on between movement and thickness. Movement is because you don't want the bass line to sound too static, and thickness is because you want it to sound nice and meaty. The interesting thing about thickness is though that kind of needs to be center, almost like mono, and movement needs to be in the stereo field. Now with bass lines though, you can't actually have bass in the stereo field. It doesn't sound very nice. So what do you do? How do you achieve the best of both worlds? So in this particular track, it's an example of what we can do, and I can show you how to sort of achieve this in one way, and likely we'll make another video on how to achieve it in another way in the other tracks that we've made. But in this particular track, what we did was we added this low mid layer. Now I'm just going to play it for you, so you'll know what I mean. It's quite thick, and then we'll play the bassline bus as well, and you'll see how they complement each other. And then I'll just talk about that really quickly. So let's go ahead and play this. Now, I would say that if you probably want your headphones to listen to this, or something which like studio monitor, so you can really hear that bass. Yeah, so really nice thick layer. Now, what we've done with this one is add it to this mid bass to create thickness. Now I'll play this mid bass. And then we'll add the other mid bass, the other low mid in. Now I'll show you with the sub bass. So that's the complete bass. Now, what I often see with a lot of weak mid basses or bass lines is this part, this is all they have. They don't really have that little bit of an extra thick layer at the bottom to bring out that low end. If we look at this on the frequency band, it kind of looks like, yeah, we're filling out the space. We look at this one, it kind of looks the same. But if you listen to it, sits much lower. So you play it together. So what I would suggest is if you are making bass lines and you don't have this low mid layer, you will probably struggle with thickness. Now, a good rule of thumb is, we've rolled it off about 125. There's actually two cuts here, one EQ before the saturator, and then we've added another EQ after the saturator. Now, and then we've added a bass mono, so anything below 200 is mono. These aren't hard and fast rules, but what I would say is anything below 125, 130 definitely is kick and sub region. But kick and subs don't hit between 125 to 250. I don't know about you guys, but I've always heard this rule about 200, 250. Make sure you always cut your mid basses there, then you add the sub bass after that, and then and that's an uplifting trance. But I would say, what happens to the frequencies between I don't know, let's say 100 to 250? Then that is what is filled out by this layer. This layer really emphasizes that frequency range, which is super important when you're looking at getting your thickness in your mid bass. You know, oftentimes I'll see something like this, where if I just take that out and I just play it with a sub bass, and that sounds all good and well, and people think, yeah, it's driving, it's really, really good. But let's see when we add this in. Really fills out that space nicely, and you really want that. Now, we've added a delay to the top layer. I'm just going to turn that off and I'll show you. You see how static that already sounds? Now, when we turn on the bass delay, there's a little EQ band here. It's shaving off the low end. But then we haven't put the delay on the low mid. So on the low mids here, on the low frequency, and we've kept it away from the delay. And that's the only reason we've split it out. Given it a bit of a mono processing, and then added a saturator, which if you want to listen to my last video, you'll know what I mean by adding a saturator really helps bring out the thickness of any low end. So if you're struggling with bringing out the thickness of your bass, really just use the saturator, because if I turn this off, yeah, sounding really nice. Now we've left the frequency at 1K, that's fine, because the actual harmonics, the actual sound itself is sitting on octave lower. So that's where that comes into importance. So I'm just going to have a look at the octaves here. Yeah, second octave. So you'll see maybe the other ones alternate between second and third. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I would say. Make sure you cover that frequency range when you're making your basses. If you're making a different style of music, if you're making like a progressive, or you don't have a concept of a mid bass, just make sure you have something like that, which fills out that low mid frequency. I often see that area becoming weak in a lot of productions. People have a nice sub, and then they open up their sub, which has nice harmonics, but they don't really have this layer, which doesn't add the nice thickness you want to really drive that track, or give it that low mid power. And then use your saturator, which I've explained in the last video. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. If you have any questions, as always, drop them in the comments section below, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks.